When it's time to maintain your asphalt pavement, finding the right pavement sealer can be just as important as finding the right contractor. But not all pavement sealers are created equal. Surprised? Well, there are two ways to go about making this stuff. If you've ever felt like your sealer didn't perform as well as you wanted it to, it was likely mixed through a batch process. Think of it like a cake mixer. There's lots of variables there. Temperatures fluctuate. It's hard to apply the necessary pressure. And getting small, evenly mixed resin particles across the entire liquid is near impossible. Now, imagine what happens if your sealer is mixed by a jet engine. In this case, the jet engine is a colloid mill with its stators and fast-spinning rotors that generate high shear forces. It's not a fair fight, and we probably don't need to tell you who wins. Rather than rely primarily on the human element in loading batches, which could add some variability, our colloid mills utilize many sensors and automation monitored by an operator for controlled metering of materials to ensure consistency and reproducibility. GemSeal pavement sealers are processed in this highly controlled, high shear force. Uniform microscopic particles emerge, which means every run is highly stable and homogeneous. Simply put, you can count on better longevity and color consistency for your pavement sealer every time. Don't maintain your investment in asphalt pavement unless you use a sealer you can trust. Trust GemSeal. Visit GemSeal's website to find a store near you. GemSealProducts.com.
Well, what mastics are a hot applied load bearing repair material that kind of fits a specialty niche out there. What it was originally designed for was as a alternative to cutting out, saw cutting and replacing asphalt in cracks that were too wide to be crack sealed. A crack sealing contractor that normally does a lot of the highway work, this would be an excellent tool for them to handle some of these areas that they can't address with conventional crack sealant. It's designed for cracks that are 2 or 3 or 4 inches wide. It works well on depressed cracks where you want to level out the ride control on a highway or street. It can be used on bridge approaches to level out between the asphalt pavement and the concrete bridge deck. After time, those seem to settle down and the traffic kind of thumps against the bridge deck, creating, over years of constant pounding, it takes its toll on the bridge. And of course, bridges are one of the most expensive parts of anything in a highway system. The different types of repairs that can be done with mastic is, I mentioned the wide depressed cracks, thermal cracks. These are working cracks, and about the only alternative to that is to either fill them with cold mix or saw cut them out and put asphalt back in there. Being flexible, the material does stabilize well with the pavement. It expands and contracts with the same motion as the asphalt surrounding, which in a normal asphalt patch, that's really hard to accomplish because due to the different oils and stuff, the patch may contract and expand at a different rate than the surrounding pavement around it. Other uses, which I also mentioned, was approaches to bridge decks, manhole covers, leveling out around manhole covers so that snow plows and stuff don't catch it, and utility cuts. Where a lot of the governmental agencies are using it is bridge decks, because it's really hard to get anything to stay in a bridge deck that moves up and down. Bridge decks just flex; they're constantly moving, and rapid set concretes eventually just crack, and they tend to want to pop out and create a traffic hazard. So this material is an excellent choice for repairing the bridge decks. The mastic versus the cold patch repair in the wide thermal cracks, what you're trying to do is to solidify that repair area to keep the non-compressible materials from getting down in there and creating further damage. Cold mix tends to shift too much. It moves at a greater rate than the surrounding pavement, so you're not really protecting it from anything falling down in there, and then when the pavement expands, creating another issue. Cost effectiveness of mastic versus conventional repair due to the speediness, the quickness of the repair tends to be far more economical to do than to go in and do the conventional type repair where you saw cut and replace the material. Mastic techniques, another thing that makes them cost effective, depending on where the repair is being done and what the aesthetic quality needs to be. Mastic works well with just conventional blow and go type repair, where you scoop out the loose material and apply the hot material in there and just smooth it out, and you have kind of a random shaped repair. Other agencies, if aesthetics is a main issue, then they'll saw cut them out, just like if they're going to fill it in with asphalt or concrete. You do a saw cut repair, it makes a really nice, neat, clean repair, and it's ready for traffic in a couple of hours. Mastics are designed to work equally well in either concrete or asphalt pavements. They actually come in two colors. They come in black, which would be for the asphalt repair, and they come in a gray, which would be for the concrete repair. You can use the black, though, in concrete and vice versa, but that's just the way that they're kind of designed. The concrete repair material is made out of resins and select aggregate. It has no asphalt in it. It's more of a plasticized type material, where the black material is more of an asphalt, similar to crack sealant. The types of equipment that are needed to utilize mastic is a melter, which can be a trailer mounted unit, which is usually around 200 gallons, and it's very similar to a crack sealing machine, with the exception that they usually have a horizontal auger in there versus an agitator to keep the aggregate suspended. The back of the machine has a chute, kind of like a concrete chute, where the material pours out. And the tools that come with the machine are usually hot irons. You keep the irons hot and work the material to the desired effect with hot irons. It's kind of like working concrete, except you're using hot tools so that the asphalt does not stick to whatever you're trying to move it around with. Aside from supplying the material, we sell and both rent or lease the equipment. We have both trailer-mounted units, which are 200-gallon full-blown mastic machines, and we have the smaller, more economical 55-gallon version, which if the contractor wants to own his equipment, it's very economical to get into it. As I mentioned, GemSeal offers the material and the equipment to apply it. We both sell and lease the equipment. This is one of the smaller versions that we have. This is the 55-gallon propane unit. Basically consists of an auger and a 4-inch spout here to let the aggregate and mastic material flow out. The repair, one thing I mentioned before is there's various types of, besides the hot irons, there's different drag boxes where that you can strike the repair off at various widths, whether it's 12, 18, or 24 inches wide. Thermostatically controlled, very easy to use. And the 200-gallon trailer unit, of course, is a one-switch machine. You just flip it, it heats up, agitates, and dispenses out the back and for the larger repair jobs. And another thing that GemSeal offers that we want to always keep out in front of our customers is that we have an excellent financing program. If the customer chooses to own his own equipment, we'll make it just as easy as possible to do so.
Crack sealing is the root of all evil as far as pavement maintenance goes. Once a crack opens and water gets down into the base of the pavement, that's when problems start to appear. I always try to encourage an agency, if they have money to spend on any one type of maintenance, to make it crack sealing. That's the one thing that they get the most bang for their buck. There are different types of cracks. There's transverse cracks, which run from the side of the pavement towards the middle or all the way across. There's longitudinal cracks, which run the length of the pavement, either next to the center line or about the middle of the lane. Reflective cracking happens when an overlay has been put down and the cracks below it have not been treated, and those cracks reflect up through the new pavement and reform. Alligator cracking develops because the crack sealing process wasn't done early in the pavement's life. Once the pavement gets to this point, there's really nothing you can do. The pavement is too far gone. You can crack seal the cracks and buy some time, but eventually you have to tear all that out and start fresh. When is the best time to crack seal? As far as the sealant manufacturers go, the best time to crack seal is either in the spring or the fall. The reason being is pavements move, as we all know, they expand and contract, and they're kind of midway between their minimum and maximum movement, and so you actually get a better shot of effectively sealing it then. Crack preparation, there's really a couple of different techniques to go by. Routing, saw cutting, where you're actually creating a reservoir for the sealant to have room to adhere to the sidewalls of the crack. Routing and saw cutting can add up to 40% to the life of the seal job. There's blow and go, where you just basically blow out the debris and the dirt and just apply the sealant. The application methods of an oil-jacketed machine usually includes a hose and a wand, which could be either non-heated or heated. The direct fire unit, you usually end up using what we call a pour pot or a bander, where you pour the material into it and apply it in the crack that way.
Welcome. I'm Grant Stalsmith, rental manager for GemSeal at our Auburn Hills, Michigan facility. I'm providing a short how-to demonstration on one of our Simline rental units. Before we get started, I'd like to take a minute to talk about safety. When operating the Simline unit, you should always wear leather gloves, long sleeves, pants, face shield, and boots. Always keep in mind the material is very hot, and PPE is always required. Now I'll walk you through the Simline controls and the functions. This is the Simline M1 melter. I'm just going to go through the controls and functions. Now we have here the gauges. This gauge tells you the hydraulic pressure for the agitator motor. This gauge tells you the hydraulic pressure for the material pump and the material valve, which is located over here. Now this is what actuates the rubber coming up the hose or going into recirculation. Material pump either pumps it through the hose or into recirculation. This is hydraulic flow control. You have any level from 9 to 0. So you adjust that and how fast you want the rubber to come out the wand. This is the ignition. This tells you when the glow plugs are heated up, and this is where the key goes. Okay, now I'll show you the control panel. Here's the rotary switch. It has off, run, clean out, cool down, which turns the burner off but still agitates. The first display is for material temperature. The second is for heat transfer oil temperature. And the third is for hose temperature. We also have switches over here. This is for auto and manual mode. The display to have power on or off. This is for the material pump to pump forward or reverse or clean out, as they say. The agitation, counterclockwise or clockwise, and the normal flow and below 4 on the hydraulic flow. That's for if you run it slower than normal. Okay, right here, this is the portal that you put the wand in. This is the material hatch that you'll lay the rubber right here and close. This is the hydraulic oil, and this is the level indicator. This is how you check the oil. Just make sure it's full before startup. Okay, on this side. This is the diesel tank. And this is the heat transfer oil. And that concludes Simline M1 controls and functions.
FedSpec and Polytar are pavement sealers that are made from a refined tar binder. Black Diamond, on the other hand, is neither made from refined tar nor is it made from asphalt. It's a unique binder that behaves very similar in characteristics to refined tar binders. Black Diamond behaves very similar to refined tar or coal tar based products. It's a little bit softer in odor, a little bit more softer on the environment, but performs well, much more superior to the performance of asphalt based sealers.
In addition to our Black Diamond, we also have a product called Black Diamond Excel. Now with Black Diamond Excel, we polymer modified the base binder, which in this case is a petroleum distillate. Because of where we add it and how we do it in our manufacturing process, it actually blends better with the actual binder itself, and we get a much better mix than you would trying to mix it in a tank yourself. So it makes that polymer even more effective, and what that does is basically it helps strengthen the characteristics of that pavement sealer, where it's going to help make it stick to the surface better and also improve the durability of that film.